Excitement reached fever pitch as the man who won Sri Lanka's presidential election arrived at the Election Commission. Plain speaking and outside the country's dynasty politics, Anura Kumara Dissanayake turned up in the most modest of vehicles among many of the candidates.
We announced that Anura Kumara Dissanayake has been legally elected as per the 1981 Presidential Elections Act.
It's been a long road for AKD and his party, which polled just 3% of the votes the last time he contested the presidency. This election, he struck a chord with voters. He promised them he would root out corruption, punish wrongdoers, repatriate stolen wealth, and ensure a better future for all.
It's people's support and their mandate that gives a government strength and guidance. Therefore, in order to come out of the mess this country had fallen into, we felt the need to restore rule that has the people's mandate.
People fed up with the failure of successive governments to focus on their needs, mismanagement, corruption and unsustainable debt were ready to try an alternative. AKD had a message.
Everyone should unite to rebuild this country. We will give you the support and leadership from our side.
Earlier in the day, counting took longer than expected, as neither of the main candidates secured 50% of the vote. This meant a second round to count the preferences marked by voters.
The people have spoken, choosing a candidate who's pledged change and a country free of corruption over those considered part of a system that brought Sri Lanka to its knees. Voters will be hoping that Dissanayake keeps his promises. Vinay Fernandez, Al Jazeera, Colombo.
Introducing Alan Kadigama, who's a political economist and a senior lecturer at the University of Jaffna in Sri Lanka. He joins us from there. Warm welcome to Al Jazeera. So what does it mean for Sri Lanka to now have a Marxist-leaning president who only has 3 JVP MPs in Parliament and won just 3% of the vote back in 2019?
Yeah, this is a major change for the country. And this is a change that people have been looking for almost 3 years. The parliament that ruled the country and the president, in a way, were illegitimate because of the huge protests that chased away the previous government. And so people have been looking for this change. And even though Anura Kumara Dissanayake and the NPP coalition that he leads only won 3 seats in the last parliament, there's been a wave of support which has led to this historic victory. It's historic also because this is the first time that somebody outside the Colombo elite, it's been successive families that have been ruling this country. And for the first time, we have an outside party coming to power. Now, while the JVP, which is the major constituent of this coalition, led 2 insurrections and has a radical Marxist past, in order to come to power, they have shed much of that. They've moved much more to the center, and now they could be characterized more as a center-left party. They are trying to woo the middle classes, and it is that strategy that has brought them to the helm of state power. But they're going to have a lot of challenges. The economy in particular, Sri Lanka is going through its worst economic crisis since.
Well, let me ask you about that, because one of Dissanayake's policy promises is to reverse tax hikes and welfare cuts. All of these things, of course, introduced by the previous government in the wake of the economic collapse and a multi-billion-dollar loan from the IMF. Is this fiscal responsibility, do you think, on the part of this new president?
He definitely needs to give relief to the people because poverty has doubled, malnutrition is on the rise, and the IMF program and the stringent austerity measures have been at the center of this. And I think a reason for this change is also that people are fed up with the way in which the economy is moving forward. In fact, I would say the IMF program has created a new crisis, a crisis that has led to further contraction of the economy. And the IMF program has been mainly about trying to repay Sri Lanka's creditors, because 2 years ago, Sri Lanka, for the first time in its history, defaulted on its debt, and much of that debt is owed to international bondholders. just last week, even after election campaigning ended, the previous president was trying to make a deal with these bondholders. Extremely unethical because a new government was going to come on board. The IMF agreement, in terms of the debt relief that it allows for, is very minimal. Even when Sri Lanka exits this IMF program in 2027, 4.5% of Sri Lanka's GDP would be to service external debt. That would be about 30% of its revenue or 30% of its exports. So that is just not sustainable. So renegotiating this IMF program is critical if Sri Lanka is to have a sustainable future.
And what now for those who have been voted out of office, the likes of Ranil Wickremesinghe, for instance? Do they continue being a political force in the country going forward?
Ranil Wickremesinghe and the government he led of the Rajapaksas has been completely discredited. Ranil Wickremesinghe only got 17% of the vote, despite having state power at his disposal as president. The son of the former president, Namal Rajapaksa, got a thumping defeat. So they have been completely discredited. Yet Sri Lanka is facing a parliamentary election in the next few months. So there is going to be stiff competition there again.
Okay, Sri Lanka very much at the crossroads. Alan Kadigama, good to have you on Al Jazeera. Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.